On the other side of the world, in Canada, scientist Boris Worm had been trying to work out how many tuna and other large fish were left in the sea.
Somebody said counting fish is just as easy as counting trees, just that they're invisible and they move. So it's an almost impossible thing to do, especially when you want to assess how the global ocean has changed, the whole thing.
We asked that very simple question: where are we now relative to a baseline that we set around 1950, because large-scale industrialized fishing started around 1950. So here in 1952, when this series starts, we see that around Japan there's already blue colors dominating, meaning that the catch rates were low, around 1 fish per 100 hooks. In areas that were newly exploited, we see catch rates about 10 times higher, 10 or more fish per 100 hooks.
Worm used Japanese fishing fleet data that had recorded how many fish were caught on every 100 hooks they set.
This is the first time industrial longline fisheries went out into the open ocean and just worked through the whole ecosystem. See that the fishery has reached a truly global coverage, and a lot of the ocean is in the blue colors now, meaning the abundance of these large fish globally has probably declined by about 90%. This has been widely criticized, and there have been many papers written to undermine, attack these findings.
Totally wrong. There's just no question that's totally wrong.
Some fisheries scientists felt that Worm's findings didn't reflect their local situation. Some thought that even attempting to count how many large fish were left in all the oceans was an impossible task.
I think that in their haste to get the big picture, they don't look carefully enough at local places.
They actually disagree with one thing: certain tuna, yellowfin and skipjack in the Pacific. And there they say it's only 70%, not 90%.
Whether it's 90 or 95 or 80 or 70 is rather irrelevant. We all know they've declined dramatically. So focusing on the particulars in that sense is not helpful.
The overall trends in Worm's findings were reflected in official data. Species after species had collapsed.
Everybody recognizes that there's major problems in the world's fisheries, and at one level, it's a question of how bad is it.
Global fishing capacity could catch the world catch 4 times over. The world's longlining industry sets 1.4 billion hooks every year. These are estimated to be set on enough line to encircle the globe more than 550 times. The mouth of the largest trawling net in the world is big enough to accommodate 13 747s.
We are fighting a war against fish, right? And we are throwing at them our industry, and we are winning. And that's how we perceive our interaction with them. It's a fight.
The thing is, we're too good right now. Technologically, not a single hunted animal on this earth has a chance.
The skipper knows exactly where he is in relationship to a rock where fish could hide, in relationship to a wreck where fish will be attracted to.
It doesn't take very long for us to have very serious consequences in what we're doing. We're not willing, we keep pressing the button. We're not willing to hold back.
Fishing has transformed entire ecosystems. In fact, one of the largest scale transformation of the planetary environment has been the impact of bottom trawlers, nets that are dragged across the seabed And as they are pulled, they cut down the animals that live on the surface, things like corals and sea fans and sponges. The signs of destruction brought up on deck by the trawl would make an angel weep.
If the fishing effort continued to increase, continued to be directed at the dwindling resource, you would, of course, catch most of it.
The bluefin is one of the most iconic fish in the sea. Pound for pound, its delicious flesh is the most expensive and sought after on the planet.
Bluefin is the front line. Bluefin is the most immediate crisis that we know about.
For many years, scientists have been predicting that the king of the tuna would be hunted to extinction. But now, it is actually happening. Roberto Mielgo is a bluefin tuna fisherman who has turned whistleblower on an industry he believes is out of control. A lone presence in the ports of Europe, Mielgo is hunting for information to bring the slaughter to a halt.
It's bluefin. I can actually tell from here it's bluefin.
I started in this business as a tuna farm diver. That was many years ago. Those days were the good old days, where the stock was healthy, I would say. But then bluefin tuna became big business. I mean, really big business. In 2002, I was in Tunisia, I think it was. And that's when I first sensed that something terribly wrong was happening. That is a bluefin unloading. Let's say there's only 2 containers, and they jam-pack those 2 reefer containers, 40 feet reefer containers, with 28 tons each. That is 56 tons of fish. Making millions and millions and millions by decimating a species. Is that right? Is that moral?
In Luxembourg, European Union ministers meet to decide the fate of the fish and the industry which depends on it. Fishing is supposed to be controlled through internationally agreed quotas, the amount fishermen are allowed to catch. These are recommended by scientists. Scientists are recommending a catch of 15,000 tons simply to avoid collapse. In order to rebuild the fish population, the catch needs to be less, at 10,000 tons. But ministers vote for a catch of 29,500 tons, twice what it should be to keep the population from crashing, and 3 times what it should be to let the fish recover.
If fishery managers were engineers, they would have been fired long ago, because we'd be having collapsing buildings and bridges all over the place because the calculations are so far out. And so it's not a question of if fish stocks will collapse when you make decisions like that. It's a question simply of when. Collapse is inevitable.
Roberto Mielgo has come to Malta to investigate whether the tuna industry is catching more than the quota allows.
Hello, Charles. How are you doing?
How are you getting on?
Well, busy.
Have you found a lot?
Quite a lot, yes.
Despite the scientists recommending an annual catch of 15,000 tons and the politicians setting 30,000 tons, official figures show that the Mediterranean bluefin tuna industry simply ignores the regulations and catches 61,000 tons, a third of the entire bluefin tuna population.
This is a disgrace. Nobody is enforcing the rule of law. This is a disgrace for the European Union.
The fate of bluefin shows what international fisheries policy and consumer demand can do to a wild species. But the race to catch the last fish, whatever its price, is happening all over the world. Hundreds of millions of people in the world depend on fish to keep them alive. For 1.2 billion people, it is a key part of their diet. In West Africa, which used to have one of the richest seas on the planet, the stocks of fish have declined massively in the last 50 years. Rashid Soumaila is an expert on West African fisheries who has come to Senegal to find out what effect this has had on local people.
Fish is crucial in West Africa, so it is very important to keep this going for the sake of the people, because if the fish goes down, the coast of West Africa will be littered with problems. We cannot afford to let this go.
Adama Mbergo is an artisanal fisherman who lives in Dakar, the capital of Senegal. Fishing is his livelihood.
jamono jooju sunu maam yi man li ma jot a fekkee dañ daan ñëw maanaam li ñu doon wax napp na daal côte bi yaatu na ci booru île bi nii la sunu maam yi daan ñëw di jàpp jën yu bari ñun ñu siy teg sunu bët ñun loolu moo ñu koromp tey ñu yaakaar ni ñun bu ñu juddoo ba màgg da nga naan gis koo xamante ni sax papam.
Meanwhile, on the same shoreline, money is being made. The governments of many developing countries trade fishing rights for quick cash from developed nations. Taxpayers from the Western world pay for the largest fishing boats on the planet, super trawlers, to fish the distant waters. The locals and their pirogues don't stand a chance.
That's no good for the fishermen, that's no good for our sea. That's good just for European fishermen and government Senegal, because he have a lot of money.
Haidar has dived the waters off Senegal for the last 35 years and has witnessed huge changes to the health of the local ocean. He is campaigning against foreign boats fishing in his waters.
When I see this, I want to fight with this guy. I want to fight with this industrial boat. I want to fight with the government who take just money and don't know what they do.
Fishing is one of the most wasteful practices on Earth. Every year, more than 7 million tons, a tenth of the world's catch, goes back over the side dead. This includes hundreds of thousands of turtles, seabirds, sharks, whales, and dolphins.
See how he do to destroy the ocean. He take just what he want. He take just what he need to sell. Look, all around.